Hello, I hope this video finds you well. By the end of it, maybe you won't be. My parents are currently selling my childhood home. When I left home in January, it was with the knowledge that I was never going to see the house again. But to be honest, in the back of my mind, I always kind of thought that when I went home next year, it would still be there and everything would be as I left it and it wouldn't have sold, or my parents would change their mind. But then I got a message from my mom a few days ago saying that someone had made an offer and that they were probably going to take it. And that's when I think it finally hit me that I was never actually going back. I'm not making this video to be melodramatic or self-pitying, but I do think that this has really got me thinking about identity and belonging and grieving the end of an era. I think I'm someone who struggles a lot with the ending of things, even if it's for the best in certain situations. I never want to feel like a door is permanently shut or like I can never go back. The fact that I can likely never go back to what was my home is wild to me. I mean, I probably could, but it would probably be illegal and involve police. So we moved to this house when I was 1, so I essentially grew up there. It was my whole life. So many of my childhood memories are in some way or another connected to this house, whether it was sleepovers with friends or building a tree house or having arguments with my younger brother. In a way, I've viewed the house as a physical reminder, almost like a memoriam to my childhood. And whenever I do go home, I have all these throwbacks and I feel fully transported back to that time in my life, be it for better or for worse. I think it's really special to know a place so well. I can close my eyes and hear the exact sound that each different door in my house makes when it closes, when it opens, or when it's just creaking. I can hear the exact sound that feet would make when walking down the stairs into our living room area. I can smell my dad doing the barbecue, or we call it braai, and my mom shouting from the kitchen something about potatoes, and I know exactly how that would echo and what that sound would sound like throughout the house. I know every corner, every inch of the house and all its little defects and all its little intricacies, and if I was any good at drawing, I would fully be able to recreate it. I can see in my mind's eye all the long winding roads that are really narrow that we drive down to get home, and whenever we turned this really sharp corner onto what was my street, I would feel the sudden rush of home. I've never felt such familiarity, such a deep instinctive connection with a place. In a way, it almost feels like I'm losing a family member because I've personified this place so much. It has a very specific vibe, a very specific personality in my head. As I said before, I hate the end of an era, and I think this really signifies the end of childhood for me. Granted, I am 23 and it's been over for many years, but I still felt deeply connected with younger me, particularly when I actually went home. If I'm honest with myself, a big fear of letting go of my childhood is letting go of my parents. We will likely never live together again or live 18 consecutive years together again. I live overseas. Realistically, I've likely spent the majority of the time I will ever get to spend with them already. It marks the official end of the family unit under one roof. That house was our house, and now they're going to be moving on to their house. I already kind of knew all of this deep down, but I think the selling of the house is a very literal sign that something is over, and it's very sad and scary and nostalgic. When people ask me where I'm from, and I say I'm from South Africa, which no one ever believes anymore because my accent has changed. But when I say South Africa, a very specific image of my house flashes in my mind. Since moving out of that house when I was 18, I've lived in Luxembourg, in London, and now in Bristol. Beyond the flats I've lived in being a literal home, like, oh my god, you guys, I'm exhausted, I'm going home, kind of home. I've never felt such an affinity for a place such as the way I feel for the place I grew up in, which makes sense because you can't compare 18 years versus like 1 or 2 years. But my point is, now that my parents are moving to a place that I have never lived in and will never live in, this certainty of where I'm from, this flashing of this house in my mind's eye, where home is, has really wavered. I haven't lived in South Africa for 4 years. I live in the UK now, but I definitely don't consider that my home. To be honest, I'm hoping to leave after uni. I can tell people what my passport says or where I was born or where I live now. But a friend asked me a few days ago where I considered my home to be, and I genuinely just didn't have an answer anymore. It kind of hit me that I will never go home again, and I have no new home in sight. I've moved like 6 times in the past 4 years, and there are many moves in my future because I'm a university student. I don't know if I will ever again feel about a house the way I do about this one, and honestly, I don't think I will ever grieve the loss of a physical place as I do right now. I do think though that my perception of home has changed, and that could maybe be why I find answering the question of where home is to be so confusing and kind of baffling, because I was racking my brains to try to think of a physical place, but there are no physical places that contain such meaning for me anymore. This is probably the part of the video where you want to go get yourself a bucket, because you will be needing one when I say what I'm about to say. Go, I'll wait for you, go for it. Okay, I warned you. For me, home is people. I know. But when I think of home, I think of my mom and my dad and my brother in South Africa. I think of my partner in Paris. I think of my friends scattered literally all over the world. Home is where I can be safe and happy and feel like myself and be recognized for who I am. And that's with these people. These feelings are no longer contained and reflected by a singular physical location, such as in my childhood. In a way, it can be better and meaningful and deeper than missing a physical place. And in a way, it can hurt so much because everyone is everywhere, and I spend half my life missing home. But it's the life I've chosen. What can you do? I wouldn't change it because I'm so immensely grateful for everyone I have in my life. And I think I'm in a very privileged position to be able to say that everyone I'm close to truly adds to my life and makes me a better person. And it's thanks to these people that I still have a home in my mind's eye, even if it's a more unconventional definition of home. To some degree, this must be a relatively universal experience, and everyone loses their childhood home or what represents a very meaningful time in their life. It doesn't have to be a physical place. I know how difficult it can be and how we almost don't allow ourselves to process this change and what this loss truly means to us, what it signifies. All I can say is I'm here for you. This is a small but very mighty community. Everything is temporary, which is terrifying, but also relieving. How you feel now and the place where you are now is not where you're going to be in 10 years. So I don't know where I was going with that. It's just a thought. I know there are much deeper things going on in the world, but I think it's always a good time for introspection. I do want to make it clear that I obviously do not resent my parents for doing what's best for them. And I think that's also something to be really aware of, is as much as I'm aware of how this is hurting me and how I'm sad about it, I'm not even home more than 3 weeks in a year. I am so happy and so excited for my parents to be embarking on this new adventure for themselves, and it's something they've wanted for a really long time. But yeah, I hope this was potentially helpful. I think I kind of went all over the place. I think I will always say I'm South African when people ask where I'm from. It's just, it would feel wrong to say anything else. I think in my mind's eye, I will have different flashes of what that means to me now. But yeah, I wanted to tackle, maybe in another video, just identity in general when you're living overseas, because I think my sense of identity has fully evaporated with my South African accent. Yeah, and just kind of wondering, I'm a global citizen, what can you say? That sense of belonging and cultural identity is for a different video. Have a lovely day or evening or life. Goodbye.